Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, your host, and today I'm here with Kari Warberg Block, and she has an amazing story of success and commitment to being a mom. So, without further ado, Kari, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Hey, first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. I am a mom of four, grandmom of seven, founder of Earthkind, which is the eighth company that I've started. Um, I'm an author, and I love my family more than anything. And everything I've done has really been around the family.
I love that. So, very humble introduction.
I've started a lot of small companies, mostly for like financial need, to help make ends meet and get by. And this most recent company I've started, Earthkind, has really grown. It's become a nationally recognized brand, going global, disrupted the market. It's become quite something, and I'm no longer running it. I still own it, and I'm
Oh, okay.
chairman.
Good.
Um, but it gives me time to come out and share the things that I did because I started with nothing. We were on food stamps. We were living in poverty. I wanted to be home with my kids and needed to supplement the farm income, but I had this driving passion to solve this problem of pests getting in my stuff and didn't want to use poisons and didn't want to use traps and didn't want to risk my kids, my health. And so that's how the whole thing started.
Wow. Okay. That is interesting. So, how did you come up with it? Like, how did you come up with the idea? How did you get it out to market?
Well, like most great ideas, business ideas, they start with something quite simple. I call it the blinding glimpse of the obvious.
Mhm.
These things happen, and you get in these very painful moments, and you ask yourself, why does this keep happening? And I think most every entrepreneur starts that way. And for me, it was a mouse running up my bare leg. And it was quite freaky to say the least. And I was told there's nothing you can do. I called every company that makes products, and they said, just buy the poison lady and kill them. And people really kind of discounted the fact that I really didn't want to use an inhumane method. I really didn't want to use a poison. And I thought there's moms out there beside me.
Mhm.
So in growing the business, there was a lot of steps that had to happen. I had to, well, first make the discovery, scientifically validate it, and get it third party approved. I had to get it EPA registered, all of that before I could get it on the market and grow it. But the driving force behind it was really what ended up making it easier than it appears to grow it. I always had my family in mind, and I always thought, somebody has to do this. Somebody has to do this, make a product to protect our families, our pets, our property, our homes, our farms from pests and their damage without having to use a poison and, going against your values. So every time anything that I got hard or that was the lens through which I basically grew the business.
So,
So yeah, every decision was I'd start there.
so did you hire a coach to get you through these steps? Did you just figure it out yourself? Because I always think about it, as a new mom, I thought, oh, I wish I had a car seat that had you could pull down the legs and it could wheel around because it's too heavy. And then someone comes up with it. I'm like, dang it,
Mhm.
I could have done it. So, how did you get to that?
Well, here I've spent some time studying this because it's a very common question.
Mhm.
Most people that have an idea let it sit there for 7 years before taking any action.
Wow.
Sometimes it's 20 years before taking action. Men take action faster than women.
Mhm.
And I think that's important to note because we should be taking action too, and we don't have to make it big and overblown. We can think like men do and just take one step and test and learn, test and learn, test and learn. So in the very beginning, it was I had to figure it out myself. We're living in poverty. There was no money for a coach.
Mhm.
So I knocked on doors. I
Mhm.
knocked on one guy's door who lived in a town close to us 5 times before he would talk to me. And he
Wow.
was one of the 3 corporate entrepreneurs at 3M, meaning he starts businesses within 3M. And I thought, I have this guy that will probably talk to me. He's retired. He's a chemical engineer. He had everything that I thought I needed. And because of my persistence, he said, I'm going to help you. You deserve help. Anybody this persistent deserves help. So that was my first coach. And he ended up introducing me to a university that helped on the trials. He ended up running me through a class, an engineering class for entrepreneurs. I was the only non-engineer in the class. And it's important to note, I was also the only female. And I was also the only one that actually commercialized a product and really started the business. So
Wow.
he still has a sense of pride in that. He's like in his mid 90s now, and he just loves it. He said, I'm so glad I gave you a chance. You're showing up the people with more education and the people with more experience and the people with more money and more contacts. He goes, it goes to show you how powerful it is when you have an idea
Mhm.
and you have a mission in your mind. As the years went by, I started to use other coaches, and I'm a firm believer in coaches.
Mhm.
And I have a philosophy about it. I made up my mind probably 15 years ago that I would always spend more on my own leadership than I did on my car.
I like that.
And you see people driving around in their nice cars, and every time I look at that car, I'm like, that car gets me from here to here. I need a coach that can help get me from here to here, thinking of it like a car. And so I've always driven cars with like 100,000 miles or more on it. And yeah, they show their wear and tear, but I know where I put the investment, and other people know too. I mean, it's a priority to me.
Mhm. That is so important. I love that analogy because it is true. If you're wanting to get from point A to point B, you need something. So there's a lot that we could unpack with that because you were persistent. That's something where no matter what, you kept going and going and going, and you weren't going to let somebody stop you. And so I really think that that is the burning desire, and that is the mission and the goal for everything. If somebody really wants something bad enough, they can accomplish it.
Yeah, and here's the thing I've learned. I've got a few years under my belt. I'm 61. When you have a driving passion and a desire, without fail, the universe meets you halfway and
Mhm.
it sends you tests to get there.
Mhm.
And at first, when those tests came, I'd say, why me? Oh, why does this have to be so hard? Why is this happening to me? But as I started to look back, I realized every single one of those things that I thought was a setup turned out to be a setup for a comeback. And I came back even better and even stronger. And it's pretty much across any entrepreneur that's made it, especially the billionaires. They talk about that.
Mhm.
Just take one step and another step and another step. And that's really what matters in the long run because you learn along the way.
Mhm. So how long did it take you to get from the idea of I'm going to do this, not the mouse, but the I'm going to do this, to the product in the store? How long was that?
So it was about 7 years.
Okay.
But I had a little bit of help because I had the idea and I was toying around with it, and I had a near-death experience.
Mm.
And it forced me on my back for a year. I couldn't walk. I broke my femur. I was selling produce at the farmer's market because I told my kids, I am not going to get a job in town. It's so important to me to raise you. I will sell produce on the street corner before I'm getting a job in town because I wasn't college educated. And, we were living in poverty. Anyway, at one of those farmers markets, I got run over
Oh
and
my
it
gosh.
my femur broke, my femoral artery rent. I ended up, on my back. And nothing happened to me there was like no near death experience. The doctor, though, was an atheist. He saw an angel and he actually left medicine because it was so shaking to him. And he told me, he said, "You have a purpose in life, and I wish you all the luck in the world because this is like, it's really phenomenal, Kari. I don't want to hear any complaining out of you. You're lucky to be alive." So I knew I was going to have some rehabilitation and recovery in it. But spending a year on my back, thinking through,
Mm.
you're here for a reason. And I think everybody is here for a reason. And you don't always stop and take enough time to think about it. So I just encourage people to think about it so you don't have to have like a big old club hit you over the head, or in my case, a big touring bike with a sidecar run you over.
Wow. And wow, it's such an incredible story that, first of all, you didn't see the angel, but the doctor did, who was an atheist and left his profession because he saw truth. That's how I say it. And I truly believe that we all here are here for a purpose. And so, it doesn't kill you, it does really make you stronger. I mean, it's a cliche type word, but for you, that really was the truth. And so because of that, you took it and you went all the way that you needed to. But I think a lot of times people just want to have an overnight success. They don't want to have to push through the so much. The
I totally get it. I'm the same way. Each day I want to get things done faster. I want to get them done with less waste, right? I want to get them done with less fanfare, drama, what have you.
Mhm.
So I think that's just a human trait for sure. But the most important thing I've learned along the way is that we're put here for a reason. And everybody that we come in contact with is an opportunity to live out our purpose.
Right.
We often have this one agenda of, I have to make this much money, I have to do this thing. But once an entrepreneur learns about the path and enjoying the journey and enjoying the people along that you meet and the things that happen, because people come and go in your life, right? And I made it a priority. I always wanted to leave a kind impression through my work, through our products, which control pests in a very kind, humane, sustainable way. I thought next time I die and close my eyes, that I will have that legacy, and my kids will be proud of me.
So tell me about being the kindness rebel, that you've earned that title.
So for you moms out there with little kids that sit sideways in their chairs like you see here, put shoes on different feet, wear different colored clothes. It's just kind of an shining example of what how that expresses itself through time. I was always a kid that did things a little differently. I didn't fit into all the normal things that kids were. I was in special ed growing up. With that said, I was smart. I just learned very differently. So I've always been one who goes against the grain. I've always been one who stands up for what I believe. I've always been one that's asked for what I want, despite being really terrified inside and scared. And that's one of the things that I like to talk about because I didn't have that voice when I was young. In our generation, that wasn't a thing. It's become a thing nowadays, but there's a lot of women in between. And I was on a time at the National Women's Business Council, which advises the White House, Congress, and SBA on matters of women's business. And I held roundtables across the country. And the number one thing that was standing in the way of women and growing their businesses was going for the ask.
Mhm.
Scared to talk to the banker, scared to ask for what they want. So I'm out teaching people how to be a little bit of a rebel and approach it a little bit differently so that it's not so daunting.
You know, I love that you said that because I shoot this TV show every other month, and in my opinion, the videographer did not come prepared. I was a little frustrated, and so I need another site because he clearly what I had planned, he was not prepared for and couldn't deliver. And so I had to go find another location for the shoot. And I'm like, this is a small town, right? And I'm walking back and forth. And in the past, it takes me a couple weeks to be able to get to where I needed to go. And I just had this feeling as I'm driving by the fire station, I walk inside, and I'm like, ah. And so I drive over to City Hall, which was not impressive. I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I come back and I walk inside this fire station, and there's all these guys, sheriffs, basically, and they're all in their uniform. And so I said, hi, is there someone I can talk to? And the chief meets me and goes, yeah, you can talk to any of us. And I said, well, I'm part of this national TV show and blah, blah, blah. Asked if they wanted to be on. And the fire chief like walks behind, like, I'm out. Any of these four can help you. I'm out. And so then the four are like, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. And so I'm like, oh, so all of you want to do it. They're like, no, none of us want to do it. And so they're like, but I know somebody that will. So they immediately call the mayor. He comes running over, and then they call the sheriff that's been the longest running sheriff in the state of Utah. He comes over and he's like, your timing was impeccable because 5 more minutes, I was headed out of town for the weekend. And then the other one's like, well, I was in this other town an hour away and I was just coming back. And so it's very interesting how I had opportunity to interview them. We did a great job. And then we moved to the next location. But it is so, when you talk about the ask, could have been very easy for me to just say, no, I'm too shy or I'm too nervous. I can't do that and not have a good thing. And so that's the part that it's true. We sometimes are taught to not ask for things because whatever reason. But if you do, like I was looking for the mayor, I wanted to interview the mayor 2 weeks ago, but I'm like, oh, it's going to take me too long. I'm just going to do something else. And no, it turned out like I put it out there and I got him.
That
So,
is such a good story because in business, in my experience, it happens very much that way,
mhm,
especially when you don't get on your own high horse and start pointing fingers, right? It's just like everything is fluid and it's happening for a reason. And you set that intention and other people line up and they help you.
mhm. It's
And
true.
so thank you so much for saying that because it's my career has been very, very much like that. Somebody has to stand up and start it, right?
I do. Absolutely. All right. So because you have gone the gamut, how long have you been in business now?
With this current company, it's been 20 years. 20
Oh,
years
wow.
that, yeah, I've
Okay.
been hiring people and leading teams and getting patents and creating policy and doing all kinds of things.
And it's, I mean, hundreds of $1 million in business, right?
We've had over 360 million in cumulative revenues. We're still considered we're small to mid-size. We're
Okay.
right in that middle. It's called the missing middle because most entrepreneurs don't make it that far. They sell out, and it's extremely rare for female
Right.
entrepreneurs to get into that middle. So networks have been super helpful and important and coaches to get through that territory because I still own a majority of the company. I do have a minority investor. We're a debt-free company. We're a top place to work. We're growing. We're growing, I think, twice the pace of most in our category, which is all really good and exciting things.
You're so humble when you talk about that. 360 million is a lot of money. So for people,
I know, I know.
millions, you're like, if I could just get to the million, you're like 160 million. That's a lot.
It doesn't apply to my book. We made the bestseller list day one.
Nice.
I was right there with Elon Musk and Bill Gates on their launch day for their books. But I haven't spent any time promoting it unless I'm speaking at a university, and I wrote it for students.
That's great.
But yeah, I've
Well,
spent all my efforts on the company.
that is such an accomplishment. So congratulations. So
Thank
if
you.
you, as a business owner, what is some advice that you have learned over the years that you could pass on to other business owners that are starting out or that are trying to get over that cusp of $1 million. What is your advice?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that I think the most important thing is at that point, find people who believe in you and believe in your vision because that derails so many people that want to start something. And especially if they're not, what you're talking about is so visionary, like mine was. People looked and said, that's nuts, that you can't do that. That's never going to happen. And you have to develop the resilience inside yourself and get some people that kind of hold your hand and say, I believe in you. I see what you see.
Mhm.
But learning to articulate your vision is so important and so underrated.
That is good. That is really good advice. Kate, something's coming through my head that's distracting me, so I have to ask. Non-lethal with the mice. So what does your product do? Because I'm sure our listeners like, just Charisse, you are not asking her that question. So how does
Oh,
your product
well,
get rid of
bless
them?
your heart for sharing that. So on the wall behind me, you can see we have products that they look like a little sachet,
Hmm.
and it's a small, like fist-sized little bundle of plant-based materials. And you put it into areas that you want to keep the mice out of, the spiders out of, ants, cockroaches, and it works really, really well. They're top rated, they're professional grade, effortless, just
Hmm.
really effortless to use. You place the pouch, and the pests leave, and they stay away. And the side benefit, there's lots of side benefits. It's kind of brilliant, really. They smell good. They look pretty, like a woman, only a woman could do this, right? They keep farmers employed because our ingredients are grown by farms. They're not born in some factory in a lab in China. And they're assembled by differently abled individuals.
Wow.
Top rated too. So they have the most ratings. So they work amazing. You can get them at Lowe's, you can get them at Walmart, you can get them on Amazon, Ace Hardware, Tractor Supply, our own website.
Wow. I am totally going to go buy that because I'm having unwanted guests right now that we we were able to win the battle, but we're losing again. We have a whole bunch of construction across the street. It's huge field, and so they're just coming over to the homes for warmth. So, yeah, that's great to
Yes. And they want a
literally.
home to live, but we just don't want them in our home,
Right, right.
especially if it's mice, because up to 20% of household fires have been attributed to mice chewing on wires.
Really?
So it's super important to use products or hire somebody to come in and make sure that your family is safe. And it's
Wow.
yeah, pests can be scary too. They can be a public health risk.
Mhm.
So I just really wanted to take care of my family. And my father was in pest control and he died of cancer at 52.
Oh, wow.
My farmer husband, who I'm not married to anymore,
Mhm.
he got in an accident with Roundup
Mm.
and almost died. And so on our farm, we went regenerative and organic. So we were really careful about the chemicals that we used. His mother died from aplastic anemia,
Oh my
and the
God.
doctors had always said it was from the mothballs. And
Wow.
so there was just all of these things saying, it was like I'm laying there on my back after my accident. It was like, you have to do something about this. And my mind is like, you don't know how to do anything.
Mhm.
You're just dumb. You didn't get to go to college. You have no money.
Mhm.
You don't even like to be out in public. You're introverted. And I just,
Wow.
got a little rebellious and said, do it anyway.
And I'm so glad that you did because I know you're going to impact my family as well right now, because
Oh, that
literally I'm
makes
going to
my
go
heart
buy.
so happy.
And I'm sure
Oh.
millions of other people clearly because you've been doing it for a long time. And so I love that you had that drive and resilience that you said, I want to be home with my children because that's the most
Mhm.
important thing. And being a mom of six, yeah, it's I did the same thing when I was finally able to not have to be the breadwinner and be home with my family. That's when I became an entrepreneur. And so if you were sitting on a park bench and a 9 month pregnant woman comes over to you and sits down and she starts, like you have this conversation and it's the first time mom that she is. And now that you have raised your family and you've seen the gamut, what is some advice that you would give her as a new mom, not necessarily as a baby, but just as a mom?
Well, the first thing I'd be obliged to do is tell her about Earthkind, of course, and the products
Yeah.
we make.
Hmm.
Because new parents are super concerned because the precious
Hmm.
baby comes out. They want to do everything they possibly can. I would encourage them to always trust their instincts.
Hmm.
As when a doctor is pushing this or pushing that on you, trust your instincts and trust your gut.
And that is so true, especially because one doctor might not have the same beliefs. My son is getting ready to go on a mission, a church mission, right? And he has to get this physical. And the doctor walks in. He's like, "Oh, so you're here for, this." And my son's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Is there any way I could talk you out of it?" And I went, wow, clearly your vision, your goals and mission is not aligned with ours. And it was kind of taken, I mean, like, really, did you really mean that? But he was dead serious. And so it's interesting that some of those people that we trust and we go to for advice might not be the greatest people for you. So that's good advice.
Absolutely, and it's in every walk of life,
Oh yeah,
not
absolutely.
just the medical
Yep.
industry. And something that was effective yesterday doesn't mean it's going to be effective today. Life is just ongoing. One of the gifts I did get after my near-death experience is I got intuition that has been 100% spot on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm quickly able to get to the truth. And, I have a next level of judgment that's just unbelievable. And it's kind of like a bullshit index. And I always had it before, but to me, it was something that turned on when I became a mom. And when you're thinking about your kids, right? And I pray for my kids every morning for a half an hour each one, and I go through the whole thing. And I'm constantly checking what is that truth? Because I want them to live their purpose, right? And I
Hmm.
want them to be safe and I want them to be protected and all of those things. But I think if you have that right intent, that those fleeting little thoughts where the intuition, like your head telling you you have to say something,
Yeah.
we need to trust those.
Yeah. That's really good advice. It's so good advice. Well, if our listeners are like, "Oh, I have got to get that product or I need to learn more about you," how would they find you?
So the first thing to do is go to Earthkind,
Mhm.
earthkind.com. We have a store locator, all kinds of product information. We have the oldest, most extensive library of there of resources too to help you practically get rid of the pests in natural ways. And we'll refer you to a chemical company if it's needed
Mhm.
as well. But yeah, find me there. There's information on me. You can Google my name, Kari Warberg Block, as you see it in here too. I have a blog that I put out, and I'm out on podcasts and talking and doing what I can to help other moms out there like me.
I love that, Carrie. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, moms, Carrie has so much advice and she has done it all. And if you are struggling and you're like, "I can never accomplish this," or "What is my mission?" It takes some time to really listen because it will come to you. And then the ways will also come to you of what you're supposed to do because you do have a mission, you do have a purpose. And if you're struggling with pests, definitely go to Earthkind because it's a natural way. And clearly it's worked because she's been around for a long time. So, make it a great day and believe in yourself. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.